Greetings, Light Tribe. Janine Palmer here. Spirit Silver Moon. Harmony, Energy Healing, and Standing Holy Hierophant. This one's about religious or social programming and conditioning. Okay, and what that means to us on our path, depending on how much of that we have been influenced by, I suppose you could say. My necklace is coming off there. There are many religions or spiritual practices. This thing's not cooperating. There we go. Historically, that were more connected to source and deeper understandings of that have kind of been lost or tweaked or perverted or abused, misunderstood, mistranslated, etc. One of the purest spiritual practices, I suppose, I think is still Native American. I wouldn't even call it religion. It's spiritual practice and identification and knowing and honoring everything. So how do we each determine what is truth for us? Is it because of our upbringing, our family, what they believe, a church, a belief system, a religion, a denomination, a social influence? Now, sometimes people are brought up in countries where it's like you follow it or you die. And some people have different knowing within that they can't even openly really share or discuss because of fear of death. And we're each in different circumstances for however they will challenge us. And we're here to rediscover our inner truth. And it's been referred to as the kingdom within. Okay. We don't necessarily connect with the kingdom within by adopting belief systems or someone else's interpretation of something, or by following in a group that is following someone else's experience of something. Okay, so one of the hugely unfortunate things that has happened through many religions or perceptions of religions, and I would say especially unfortunately the Abrahamic faiths, as I understand them from my limited perspective to date, in that it's imbalance, okay? It's an example of imbalance, okay? And if you study ancient scriptures and their deeper meanings, metaphorically, spiritually, through biblical scholars or spiritual teachers, you're going to find a much different meaning than churches tend to sell you, okay? Yeah, there's more, there used to be more of a mystical understanding of it. And now, you know, the church gained power hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and it controlled the masses. They didn't want people to have their own Bibles. They didn't want people to read them, to understand them. People who were translating the Bible from Latin to English were burned at the stake, okay? The Spanish Inquisition, it was about power, it was about money, it was about control, and it was about using fear to do that. It was about twisting, perverting, and manipulating the meaning of Scripture. And that is darkness working through religions, people, and it is going on today, whether you recognize it or not. It is our own responsibility to take responsibility for what we believe until we awaken enough to move beyond belief and into the knowing that we have within. For instance, how many religions program us to feel unworthy. They take the meaning of to sin, which simply means to miss the mark or miss the point. It's an archery term. And they hang it on people like labels, diabolical labels, to make them feel like they're unworthy sinners. Okay, that is a diabolical lie. That is darkness working through religions disguised as light. Yes. It is time to awaken, but that's choice. Okay, to be aware of the churches and the Abrahamic faiths programming us to believe that we're worthless, unworthy beings. That is so jacked up. It's not even funny. Okay, to believe those falsehoods and lies through illusion and amnesia. Okay, so we are being challenged to rediscover our divinity. So we were created by the Elohim. People don't even know what that is. It's plural, androgynous. Okay, the 7 creative spirits who stood before the throne of God and said, "Let us make man in our image." Okay, God is not a man in the sky. Some people might worship, a wrathful, jealous, vengeful God. And what God is that? It's interesting to delve deeper into what we worship, or what we follow, or what we adopt, or what we believe, and to try to determine how much of it is really true and how much of it is not true. Okay, and so we are actually surrounded by an immense level of love that we may or may not recognize, that comes from different beings, higher beings, not one, many. Okay, and so something that's going to try to program you to be in guilt and fear and shame, that's not of the high God. What God would be so weak that it would need to feed off of suffering and people fighting against each other and fear and sacrifice? What is that? So if we were created from love, from a God of love, but we descend into this earth plane, earth school, and we come through a veil of forgetting, and we do not remember our origins or our magnificence, and there are forces that be that program us to stay stuck. Oh, and then think that we don't have to do anything because someone else is going to do it for us, so we're not doing what we came here to do, which is to learn through experiences. So just because we have an experience and we learn from it doesn't make us bad. Okay, so right now is a time to choose a path, maybe a higher vibrational path, where we're shedding skins and shells, and cutting cords and ropes and chains and shackles, and realizing that hell is a door that's locked from the inside. All we have to do is open it and walk out, because we create that here. We create our own heaven and hell here now by our choices, decisions, our actions, and our reactions. So some people are too identified with the physical. They're too stuck in programming and conditioning and dogma and fear and guilt and shame. And they're afraid to open up to, let's say, higher things. Okay, so they might stay stuck in that lower dimensional level, which is more of a level of suffering. Okay, so it's a choice. Christ consciousness is here now. Christ is in us, if we recognize that. Christ is an energy of love. But we want to think, I want to identify with Christ the man. I want the physical to come back because I can't identify with the spiritual. And I want to think, because of a misinterpretation that's only a couple hundred years old of the rapture, that Christ is only going to come back and take the chosen ones. No, Christ isn't about favoritism. He loves everyone. And so many things are misunderstood and misinterpreted. But people in their collective egoic groups and mindsets, they don't want to step out of that dogmatic box of ignorance, that comfort zone. They don't want to step out of that because some things are too fearful, and they want to be right. And in their mind's eye, this is what's right. And if you're not in their group, then you're wrong. And again, this is how darkness takes control or keeps people stuck, is through judgment, judging others. There are many wounded people who we will meet on our path, and they will test us greatly. And they will do things that feel very harmful, unless and until we recognize that it's coming from their wounds and disengage and detach and forgive and rise above and move beyond that. Okay? Because if we hold on to that pain and that anger and that woundedness and that illusion and that misunderstanding, it keeps us stuck from moving forward. Oh, and when I was talking about Native American spirituality is a very beautiful, deep understanding of honoring all. However, it seems that many Native Americans are very wounded still, okay, holding on to the old pain, holding on to the ancestors' wounds. Now, there needs to be awareness and acknowledgement, but how do we transmute it? How do we become alchemists and change it into something good and instead of staying stuck in pain? How many people are alcoholics or hooked on drugs or harming other people because they're stuck in that energy? So how do we heal the wounds of the past? Do we stay stuck there and keep perpetrating it and pull race cards? And I'm talking about many cultures here, really, but many cultures hold on to the ancestral wounds and keep poking them and use them to keep themselves stuck. Okay, but they don't see that. So to embrace the depth of connection, of honoring everyone and everything and great spirit and the balance between the masculine and the feminine, where did that go? Because patriarchal religions really did squash it big time. And again, if you don't study it, you probably don't know. Okay, so this is just about more awareness for taking responsibility for our individual paths and how we do that or how we don't do that, and about healing so many wounds. And it begins with us. And sometimes we don't know how. We gather tools along the way. We meet guides and helpers, and we meet people that trip us and kick us when we're down. But we learn something when we're down there. So honor yourself. And remember, this path is about remembering, recognizing, and owning your own divine worthiness. Peace.